The entire cyber situation is going to be handled. Using a computer, you can target others. We call this as an identity theft. So much are you subjected to any kind of threats and attack. Good morning and welcome to the session 2 in Unit 4 of Commercial Law, where we are going to speak about a very important topic called as the cyber laws. Now, cyber law is not something new to India because we are now in the phase of digitization and everywhere we are a part of the digital technology. So what's happening here is that in a simple way, we can say that cybercrime is related to all the unlawful acts where a computer is being used either to target somebody or it is as a weapon to take the data out. So what is happening is that there's a lot of theft, forgery or defamation, mischief, all kind of illegal activities which are going on, and these activities definitely attract a punishment from the Indian Penal Code. So definitely cybercrime is not going to be taken lightly in India because all kinds of these acts are going to be governed by the government at a given point of time, and they are bringing in stringent rules and laws by which the entire cyber situation is going to be handled. Now, there has been a lot of crimes that have reported and they have given birth to a new kind of ideologies altogether. All these things are now being governed under the Information Technology Act of 2000. With the advent of more and more social media coming into picture and bringing in more of financial technology apps, the UPI payment apps, we have been subjected to a lot of threats. And mind you, there are no data privacy that is available now. Everybody is watching you. Every single point of data contact is being used against in order to derive a lot of information. So what we want in India is a stringent cyber law that can go ahead, check all these parameters and come back so that we can live a cyber secured world. Moving further, we can categorize the cyber crimes in two ways. Computer as a target. Using a computer, you can target others. Now, when you look into technology, it is also a boon in disguise, what I would say a blessing in disguise, and can also be called as a bane, which means to say that it can also be used as a threat in disguise. So what I'm trying to talk about here is that by using your laptop, by using your mobile phone or the gadgets that you have, you can target others' data. That's what most of the people tend to do in terms of hacking others' account or getting into the information of others, which is considered to be a severe threat in India. The next thing is that we are talking about computer as a weapon to commit as a real world threat. Now, when you start computer as a target, your computer can also be targeted. Your system can also be targeted. Using the computer, you can also start targeting others. So now if you start looking in here, there are both ways in which the cyber attacks are coming into picture. First thing, I would like to talk about the cyber terrorism altogether. Now, what we are trying to do here is that lot of antisocial element activities are going on by using computer to promote cyber terrorism. You try to send in messages that can instigate people, that can make people fall in for trap, and through which you can start promoting hatredness across this globe. That's where cyber terrorism is coming in as a very big factor altogether. The IPR violations, that is when we are talking about the intellectual property rights violation, people trying to infringe others' ideas, innovations and thoughts and trying to make it as their own factor. So that is also considered to be a very big threat, followed by the credit card frauds and the factors of EFT frauds that are coming in, that is the electronic fund transfer. So using the computer as a weapon these days, people are getting into the factors of hacking others' account withdrawing the money from their account, trying to put them in all kinds of danger as far as possible. So from the side of cyber attack, it is always advisable that we need to keep our system more secure. We need to follow the rules that are given by the RBI at any point of time so that we can protect us from all kinds of cyber attack. And needless to mention, the pornography, which means to say illegal kind of activities on a person, on a human body altogether, is also being promoted through this cyber terrorism, through this cyber attack altogether. Now, one way you also need to understand about the hacking virus and the worm attack and the DOS attack, which is very, very important. Why? Because these days people are floating unnecessary emails with attachments. When you click on the attachments and try to open, it is bound to get into some sort of virus attack. So let us try to understand that we are being subjected to all kinds of attack, all kinds of data phishing altogether, which will lead to a severe problem in the upcoming scenario. Followed by the cyber law, which is also referred to describe the legal issues related to the communication technology, particularly the cyberspace, that is the internet. Long back, about 20 years back, when the internet was about to boom and become a very big success story altogether, say about in the year, I'm trying to talk about 92, 96 and all factors, the late 90s when internet was catching up, everybody was completely fancied by the idea that internet would change the digital world and internet is going to be the future of business. There was nothing wrong about it. Yes, internet had come forward and it had changed the dimensions of business altogether. But with the internet, we also need to know that there are severe problems that also got created. Now, those problems cannot be just mentioned as a one word or a one paragraph, but the instinct, the long-term effect that the internet has created today is a vast chain of activities, because people use internet for both good as well as for bad. So there is a scope that is endless what we see in the internet. That's why cybercrime, cyber attack and the cyber laws are also getting tougher day by day. We are now getting into an exercise, we are now getting into a role where we want to completely control this activity. That's why it's becoming very, very important. It is less a distinct field of law in the way where the property or the contract as in are the intersection of many legal fields, including intellectual property, privacy, freedom of expression, jurisdiction, and so many factors. There was time when people used to feel proud about the factor that yes, they have an email ID, yes, they have a Facebook account, I have a WhatsApp account, I have a Twitter account, or I have every kind of Instagram IDs and other factor. But today what is happening is the more the number of IDs and more you are active in the digital economy, in the digital space altogether, so much are you subjected to any kind of threats and attack. What is slowly happening is that people are losing their privacy, people are losing their freedom, people are losing their thoughts and their expressions. Why? Because they might be subjected to unnecessary thought processes and trolls. So what has become very evident today is that your privacy is now coming under question mark. Now everybody is asking about this factor that whether am I free to express my ideas, whether am I free to express my thought process and opinions. So in that essence, cyber law is an attempt to investigate the challenges presented by human activity on the internet with legacy system of laws applicable to the physical world. Can we try to bring in all the laws, rules and regulations that are available in the physical world similarly into the cyber scenario? Why? Because it is the same individual, it is the same person who is trying to communicate, who is trying to participate and who is trying to tell something to the world. But when that human beings' rights and individual identity is being attacked, can the cyber law bring in a system through which we can identify those hackers and those antisocial elements who are creating trouble for us? So let's move on and try to understand that cyber law is important because it touches almost all aspects of transaction activities concerning the internet, the World Wide Web and the cyberspace, which means to say that we are now living in a space, we are now living in a system where everything is being governed by the internet. So by default, you are a part and parcel of the system. You cannot go back tomorrow and say that, sir, I do not know anything about internet, or I am not a part of the internet. You are very much a part of this internet media world, which is trying to cover every single aspect. Now going forward, you will be even surprised by this factor that your date of birth or your identity cards or your account number, PAN number or Aadhaar card numbers, every single data is today available outside. The only thing is that it's left up to you how you want to protect it, how you want to keep yourself isolated. Now what is happening is that initially it might be seen that cyber laws is a very technical field and that it does not have a bearing to most of the activities. Why? Because when internet was first introduced to the mankind, we all felt that internet is a pure technology game. It is a world of geeks. It is not for the world of the common human being. We do not understand by URL, or we do not understand by LAN WAN, or we do not understand by the terms of TCP IP. But today people have started understanding that internet is the most common medium that can integrate, that can connect the entire world. It is completely boundaryless. So whether you are from the other part of the world, or you are in the eastern hemisphere or western hemisphere, what is going to happen is internet is making this world into an integrated digital village altogether. So no more this cyberspace is going to remain as a technical field. Rather, it is going to become a common playground where everybody are going to be a part of this big game. So that's why we see that the actual truth is nothing but could be further than the truth factor. Whatever we realize that every action and every reaction in the cyberspace will have some legal consequences, legal perspective altogether. So going further, anytime when you log on to any of the websites, anywhere where you log on to your social media apps, you need to be careful about what you are typing, what you are posting, to whom you are sending, to which community, to which base, to where you are sending your likes and dislikes, because every single action is going to have a reaction in the cyber world where all these factors are going to be looked in from a legal perspective altogether. So moving further, the types of cyber crime that we want to see here is that the identity theft. Starting with this is a very, very important aspect. Why? Because when a personal information of a person is stolen with the purpose of using that financial resources such as credit card or their account, we call this as an identity theft. Now, what can be more serious than using your own name and identity and completely looting your account, completely decoying your account altogether? That's where identity theft comes. When you look into hackers, the first thing that they tend to do is that use your identity, hack into your account and steal away with the money. So that's exactly identity theft, where we are trying to make use of you like a duplicate identity and start coming in. This is a very, very severe kind of consequence. Why? Because what is happening here is that they are exactly manipulating yourself. They are trying to create a shadow image of yourself and trying to move away into the account and take away all the belongings. The next one is called as cyber terrorism, which is a very big activity when a threat of extortion or any kind of harm is being subjected. This is there. We all know that how cyber terrorism today has become a very, very popular subject. What had happened a couple of years back when the infamous ISIS organization had gone ahead and tried to recruit several youngsters from the internet by spreading in all kind of virus and malicious messages, trying to provoke them to come into the world of terrorism. Cyber terrorism is not just an act of spreading messages, but it is a real way of instigating hundreds and thousands of people to get into all sort of unwanted elemental activities against the society. This is spreading in a very, very fast manner, and cyber terrorism can instigate anybody in this world. This has got no religion, this has got no caste, no breed, nothing. But what it tries to do is that it tries to brainwash you and make you believe that the world is a place of terror. So we need to stop this cyber terrorism, because this is going to create a very big impact into the lives of people. Followed by, generally, it includes a well-planned strategic attack on the government and the corporate computer system. So definitely, this is going to be a very severe thing that we are going to look into it. It attacks even into the governmental website and also into the serious data areas through which, it can put forward everybody into trouble. Now, moving further, cyberbullying, which is also being one of the important threats that I would say, when, for example, a teenager or an adolescent has been harassed, defamed, or intimidated by somebody stalking him over the internet, trying to get his personal detail, put him on the social internet into a choking position altogether. That's what we call the cyber crime of cyberbullying altogether. When the same crime is done by adults, we call it as the cyber stalking. So there are two factors. Cyberbullying is especially done for the teenagers. Cyber stalking is done for the adults. Now, what happens here is that people send unwanted messages, people threaten them, people put them with the abuse of words, then they try to intimidate somebody with different kinds of photos, different kinds of pictures, and put them into a very serious situation altogether. This needs to be stopped at a very, very basic level itself. Followed by hacking. We call this as the most common term in cybercrime. What is hacking exactly all about is you try to get the access of other people's computers, passwords, and you try to do it for a wrongful gain. Normally, hacking starts like a casual exercise. It just starts like a fun where people challenge you, asking you that can you get into somebody else's account. But once hacking gets onto the serious side of life, what happens is that people start getting into the others' computers, gain access, start taking up their data and use it for the wrongful purpose. That's where hacking becomes an unethical process. Though the government also uses hacking for an ethical means, but a lot of people take hacking on the wrong side and they put others' life into jeopardy. Followed by the defamation factor. The defamation is something wherein every individual has his or her right to speech on the internet platform. They have their right to talk about it. But if their statements cross a line and harm the reputation of any individual or organization, then they will be charged with the defamation law. Today, what happens is that without our conscience, we try to speak something against the system, against the country, against the law, against some person, some culture, some creed, which leads to a defamation. Why? Because without your knowledge, you are hurting somebody's feeling, image, or identity, which should not be allowed. As an individual, you do have your right to speak, but not about others where you create a situation where they get completely hurt. That is not allowed at all. You are not supposed to cross the line and get into the privacy of others. So defamation is definitely a very serious issue that when you see in the cyber crime, normally what happens here is that people tend to jump into the others' information, others' lifestyle by crossing over the privacy line and trying to take over the law. This will definitely lead into severe situations. Copyright. Now, this is also becoming a very important aspect with a massive surge in the internet users when the data information is distributed on all the platforms. Copywriting your work aids you to restrict your work. Any use of copyrighted without your permission is a punishable. That means to say that now what is going to happen? People are going to take your ideas, people are just going to take your thought process and do whatever they want. They might take your original data and they will start putting it as their own work. work. This is a serious problem. Why? Because plagiarism, copywriting, or just infringement, taking out and doing it is not going to be accepted under the cybercrime. Now, this is where we are going to see the trade secrets. Internet organizations spends a lot of time in developing their software applications and tool by the cyber laws to protect their data and the trade secrets against theft. What people tend to do is that they hack into the company website, take out their trade secrets and sell it in the open market. This leads to a lot of problem to the organization because of the loss of data. Secondly, imagine the time and effort that the company has spent in order to develop their organization. Just by hacking or taking out this data will definitely put those companies under a severe situation. So that's why we say that the trade secrets are also being hacked, which is where you also need cyber laws to come in and look into the situation. The next one, freedom of speech. When it comes to the internet, there is a very thin line between the freedom of speech and being a cyber offender. Now, freedom of speech is something where you have a right to express about something. But the cyber offender is something when you start speaking above your limit, you enter into somebody's territory, you try to defame, you try to use abusive words, you try to use a lot of unwanted expressions and symbols by which you are actually defaming somebody. Actually, you are hurting somebody. So that's where cyber law comes into picture and refrains that personality, restricts that personality by saying that you are not supposed to do so. So that's why we say that the freedom of speech has to be curtailed to a certain extent in the cyber system. Now, harassment and stalking, we have seen n number of celebrities and big people getting affected by this. The reason is that many people want to become obsessive with their fan and with their thought process. So what happens here is that people try to stalk those big personalities, those celebrities, try to create trouble in their life, which would not go very well. Why? Because even they are human beings and they need their space in the cyber. Now, what happens here is that they are using the internet to reach to their millions of fans. But if the people are using the fan page as on the wrong side, try to stalk them, try to provide them with bad information, create a defamation, try to provide unnecessary information, or try to pass on unnecessary comments altogether, then what happens is cyber laws comes in to protect this victims, and they try to find out the person who has made these kind of things, and definitely that attracts a punishment from the law. Now, with this, I come to the end of today's session. I hope and believe that all the information that has been provided here will be of a great use and resource to you. In the upcoming sessions, we shall learn more about the cyber law and its punishments. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.